Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Variety Show with Liam, a place where I like to talk about things all about music and any other related stuff from the entertainment industry. I went to a gig in maybe a couple of weeks ago now in Northcote to see Tom Bailey's Thompson Twins. I got the absolute pleasure to meet founding member Tom Bailey, but also to witness his backing band as well. And I have one of their members here, Charlotte Raven, who plays keyboards, does backing vocals, and also plays the wonderful cello. How about a hello from us from England?
Hello there. Yeah, no, it's an absolute pleasure being on the podcast. I'm super honored to have made it on as one of the first band members. So yeah, it was an amazing set of shows, and yeah, here we are.
Mm. No doubt if Tom Bailey's listening, you are. I have sent an email out to your management. Hopefully, you can get back to that somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you've got Tom coming on, or you've spoken to Tom?
Yeah, I sent when I met him. I said to him, "Well, I want you on my podcast because I think you'd be a really great fit." And he says, "Well, yeah, I definitely would like to do it. Like, just a short little 20-minute interview." I'm like, "Cool."
Yeah.
So I've been given his management's email, and now I'm just waiting for a response. So wish me.
See what they say. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've done all the right things, so fingers crossed they'll respond pretty soon.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get on with the questions. As always, we always like to hear a bit about your history. So, what is your earliest memories of music?
Earliest memories of music, gosh. Well, I had quite a traditional upbringing in terms of I grew up with my grandmother from the age of 6, and she was someone who was very inspired by music herself, and she was a musician. She was a cellist, and hence where I've got the influence from playing cello. So I spent the first sort of primal years of my childhood living with her, right through until I was 18, actually. But so she was a massive musical influence to me. So I grew up hearing a lot of classical music originally. So, concertos and symphonies and beautiful, all the big composers, Beethoven, Dvorak, Mozart, Schubert, all the classical composers you can think of. So that's kind of where my roots originally lay and lie. But since then, I kind of have over the course of my life sort of branched out and discovered all sorts of forms of different music. So now I'd say my memories are much more eclectic, but the first memories for sure are kind of a classical upbringing, hence the cello and the piano and things like that, and the
Hmm.
keys.
This is certainly interesting for me. Seeing Charlie's been weaved into Tom Bailey's music, I think is a very interesting quality, especially on tracks like Sister of Mercy, Who Could Stop the Was it Who Could Stop the Rain? Had it? No, I don't think it did.
No, in the end, we've got cello on Sister of Mercy, Lay Your Hands on Me, and The Gap in this instance. And then you didn't see this, but in the UK, we did a show in Aylesbury, which I'm sure you heard about. It was kind of our first show of Into the Gap that we did ever before coming out to Australia. And there we did We Are Detective, which was very popular, very popular, super fans, which I'm sure you know very well. And on that, I played cello as well. So I had that nice low sort of bass line that goes on in We Are Detective. Um, so yeah, it's the moment we've got 4 tracks, but yeah, the cello was a really exciting part of our addition to the whole thing really with Tom. Is that, prior to that I was just playing keyboards and singing backing vocals, and then we did a tour a few years ago in America with Culture Club and Boy George, which again I'm sure you heard we did, but we did a sort of big 3-month tour of the whole of America, and I came back and I'd earned this money with Tom, and I thought, right, well, what should I do? And I thought, oh my goodness, what I've always wanted is to buy an electric cello. I have I have 2 acoustic cellos actually, but I've always wanted an electric cello. And I thought, well, what I need to do is try and find one in white to go with the Thompson Twins image, which is all of us being in white at the moment. So I scoured the internet and I scoured looking all over the world, and I managed to find one white Yamaha electric cello in America, in North Carolina. There was only one, and I think there'd only been sort of 2 or 3 made in the world of that make. And I rang them up and I said, please do not let it go anywhere. I'll buy it now over the phone, and I need you to ship it over to fly it over to the UK. And, so I did it. And yeah, I turned up I gave Tom a call and I had it, and I said, Tom, you won't believe it, I bought this electric cello, and you won't guess what color it is. And he said, oh, what? And I said, well, it's white. And he said, oh, and his eyes just lit up. And he said, and I could see his mind working and thinking, right, this is the beginning of incorporating some more string side of things into the tracks. So that's kind of what we did going forward. And we always work out how can we add cello lines here or there, or all that kind of thing. We always try and think outside of the box about how can we incorporate and change up the routine of what we do. And that goes with saying with the percussion as well, with Paulina and with Alice on the bass. We're always thinking about how can we make the show different and change and things like that. So yeah, the transition from me doing a sort of classical, growing up in a classical world into the Thompson Twins, it happened quite organically in the end, but through the electric cello for sure, because there's so much you can do with the electric cello.
Have you looked back through the discography of Thompson Twins and wonder, I could put each cello on that, and then that, and then that, and then that. Any songs that just that to you?
Totally. The world's our oyster, really, because with what's great about the electric cello is it's so diverse in the sense that you can do so much of it. It's a bit like an electric guitar. Well, it's almost exactly like an electric guitar. You can put pedals, use as many pedals as you want. You can put it through all sorts of audio processing. You're the world of there's no limitations, basically. So yeah, we're always in discussions about what we want. But I think what really lends with the electric cello for a lot of Tom stuff is all those lovely lines, like in Sister of Mercy. It lends very well to, not being a sort of rock and roll distorted cello line, but just, it really lends very well to the track itself and the lines. And then, Lay Your Hands in the bottom end, nice low end cello lines too. And the gap obviously is just the nature of the gap. The cello part on that is really, really fun to play with the fast passage at the beginning that goes throughout the piece. So yeah, we're always I'd say we keep it quite string led and cellistic, but there's always room for interpretation about what we can do. And yeah, the possibilities are endless. So yeah.
I've always thought there is one particular song that Tom's not touched for nearly 40 years, Long Goodbye from Close to the Bone. That would be
really
would
that be a good one for the cello?
Yes.
Yeah, you see, maybe he needs a bit. Maybe you can mention it to him when you do speak to him, and we can. This is good. You can help me push this out to Tom and see what he says. But yeah, no, I think the more tracks, the better. I mean, I love playing the electric cello and on all these tracks that we do. So yeah, the more the merrier. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? There's endless possibilities with a lot of the Thompson Twins tracks that could potentially, because a lot of the time Tom was using sort of synth string lines and things like that. So it's very transferable, it's, I think when you come across one of his tracks that has a string synth sound in it, it's like, yes, we could do that on the cello. We could come up with something. So yeah, there's lots of options, which is fun.
Cool. Did you ever imagine that this would be the instrument you would be playing as a little kid compared to what you play now, the cello, the keyboard, or did you always imagine that you would be going somewhere else?
I think because I just grew up in that environment, I sort of knew that sort of, one, I guess the classical world was kind of my pushing into music, but two, the cello, I think because my grandmother was a cellist, it was sort of a very easy and apparent thing to fall into. And I kind of one thing about my grandmother that was amazing is she never pushed me, in the sense that she was never a sort of very forcing parent figure about doing a musical instrument. She never pushed me saying, you've got to do it, you've got to practice, you've got to do it hours a day. She was very encouraging to just encourage me to want to do it. So she kept a small acoustic cello in the corner of our living room, and she just left it there, and she said if I wanted to play it I could. And this was when I was sort of about 5 or 6, and I kind of was naturally quite inquisitive and intrigued by it, so I would go over to it and pluck it, and then I'd pick it up eventually a few days later, and then I'd try and bow it. And then when it became apparent that I actually had my own interest in wanting to play it, she then encouraged me to have lessons and stuff. But I mean, I think in terms of instruments, piano and cello were kind of things that I always connected with that felt obvious to me. I mean, I don't think I would have necessarily picked up another instrument then, but now, having grown up in music and studied music and spent years professionally doing music, I mean, there's so many, amazing musical instruments out there that I wish I could, I wish I could play at least one instrument from every musical family of the orchestra. That's a given. That would be amazing, because the knowledge you have there would be incredible. And two, I've always had a love affair for the guitar. I have to say, I kind of wish that I'd had that opportunity to learn guitar. And maybe it's not too late. Maybe I could pick up the guitar and learn it. But I do occasionally pick up a guitar actually and sort of just feel my way around it, because again, you've learned some technique coming from here on a cello, with no frets, but guitar's a bit lower down and you've got frets, and so it's not completely alien. If anything, I'm kind of lucky I'm a sort of step forward with it. So maybe I should pick up the guitar and just get into it a bit.
Fair enough. At least you'll be
Yeah.
able to join Tom Bailey on stage with something else.
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, I love it. I mean, I think one of my, in terms of transitions in my own musical journey, I think as well, is, as I said, having grown up in a classical world, I was massively, as I got older in my teenage years, I kind of, I sort of discovered music because, having grown up with my grandmother, she was, as I said, a classical person. So that was my education really. And then as I got older, I sort of learnt that there were other amazing forms of music out there and genres. And then I discovered, jazz, and I discovered like all sorts of different music, more popular music, and then, earlier music, and then rock music, and then yeah, it just, this huge world entered into my own world. And yeah, music is amazing like that. You discover incredible, there's so much music these days, and even now constantly being made, there's so much music, and in the past. And yeah, and then when I met Tom and the Thompson Twins, and I kind of, that was another sort of education of opening a door of discovery of music of the 80s basically, which was sort of like a decade before I was born, which is always the joke amongst us, is that I wasn't even born when Tom wrote any of the tracks, which he said on stage a few times, which always makes people laugh. So, yeah, but yeah, endless discovery with music, whether it's instruments or, yeah.
So I think was the first genre that I completely discovered progressive rock, believe it or not.
Oh, okay.
One of the most
Wow.
complex forms of rock in music history.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet. I mean, do you know what? I hands up admit I don't know a huge amount about progressive rock. I mean, by the sounds of it, probably a lot more than I do, but I appreciate it. It's a lot of people, are very into things like progressive rock, and yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
that's what I mean though, is I'm still discovering. That's what I love about what we do in music, is like you think, oh, okay, progressive rock, I'm gonna go and listen to some progressive rock later, like you just feel like you're on this complete world of discovery where there's always genres of music I'm discovering, or artists, or bands, or it's amazing, it's endless.
Mm.
Endless.
Yeah, I grew up in a household of 80s music. My mom, thank you very much, introduced me to a lot of the bands that I know, including the aforementioned Thompson Twins. I think I heard Hold Me Now at the age of 4 years old.
Wow, that's a young age to hear Hold Me Now. I love that, incredible. So
But
yeah,
it's
you must have grown up hearing the Thompson Twins in the house, right?
yeah, yes. It was on like one of those compilation CDs one of our family was made for my mom. So I was like,
Yeah.
They're pretty cool, man. I like them." And then, odd years later, and I started collecting vinyl, and they come back. I'm like, "Oh, well, let's get into them more."
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, God. So you're lucky to have grown up listening to the Thompson Twins. I mean, it must have been like a constant in your house, right? So just having it on in the background, that's kind of where you're really, as a young child, you're really taking it in, right? You're really like absorbing that music, because it's happening in those really primitive years of your development. So it just absorbs, it sort of it becomes a part of you, and I can see why you're such a big fan of the Thompson Twins. You've literally grown up listening to it. You know, it's like a physical thing almost.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
surprises me, I'm born in the early 2000s. I'm even younger
Really?
than you.
Yeah,
No.
I know, that's mad. I know. I was gonna say you look very young, so yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I mean, when were you born? What year were you born?
2002, so I'm 20 years old
2002, you're such
as
a
of this year.
baby. Oh my God. You're such a baby. I mean, I'm 1991, and even then Tom and everyone laughs because I wasn't around for his music. But what I think's amazing with Tom actually and the Thompson Twins is that what really fascinates me is that there's so many people who are your age, or if not younger, who are huge fans of the Thompson Twins and their music, considering that, this is music of the 80s. It's pretty amazing that it's transitioned and it's come this far, that their music is still inspiring and influencing generations that are of today, which are really, really young. And I think that's testament to the Thompson Twins and the fingerprint they've left behind in the music industry, is the impact they've had and around the world on all age groups. It's funny because every time I speak to people who are older than me, or within that, grew up within that sort of era of the 80s, 70s and 80s, as soon as you mention the Thompson Twins, they go, yeah, I remember the Thompson Twins. Everyone says that, and it always blows my mind. I'm like, wow, God, the Thompson Twins had such a fingerprint on, they've had such a stamp point in the music industry, in terms of time. It's amazing. Like everyone I know, I go, yeah, I play with Tom Bailey, who was in the Thompson Twins, and they all go, yeah, what was that tune they did? Wasn't it Hold Me Now? Or, oh yeah, Doctor, Doctor, do you remember that? And then, oh yeah, Lay Your Hands. You know what I mean? Everywhere, it's amazing. Always, I'm like, God, how do they? I'm so impressed that people know and remember. And as I said, I think that's just testament to the impact they have on the world.
Mm. I was looking back at one of your Instagram stories. How many people lose a quarter jack headphone thing?
Oh
I'm
yeah.
relatable to that. I went a
Yes.
whole week on radio without knowing where the fuck it is.
I know. I remember you said that on the comments. Yeah, because it's funny because so after this tour in Australia, I purposely hid my headphones with my quarter jack on it because I thought, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get back into my studio and someone will have borrowed my headphones and taken it off and sort of thought, oh, I'll put it on my one, or I'm going to borrow it and use it. But the problem is people forget. So I got back, and then lo and behold, I got there and it had disappeared. And I thought the best way to investigate this in a sort of Sherlock Holmes style is to put it on my Instagram story and see whether anyone would comment about where it might have gone. But it happens all the time. It's the most annoying thing, right? And they're so important because they're the only way you can usually connect into your audio interface. Or so now what I'm thinking of doing is I might go and buy a nice big box of them so that I've always got them ready and I'm never having to rely on my one going missing. But I've lost so many quarter jacks. Oh,
It's made.
frustrating.
Mine's made for wherever I have.
Yeah, I mean, you look like you've lost yours already now. You're looking around.
Audio Technica ones. I had these ones that were bought with my Audio Technica headphones for my radio and also
Yeah.
my podcast.
Right
But
away, Audio Technica, great. Great
lo and
headphones.
behold, where the fuck is it?
Yeah, you see, where is it? Where is it? Great headphones, great headphones.
Oh yeah, Audio Technica. That was recommended by Craig Medding from Day 93.9, who plays a lot of Thompson Twins on Flashback Lunch. So I just heard King
Cool.
for a Day today.
Did you? Now that's the one. I don't know if you can see on the set list. Is it on the set list at the back there?
Yes, it is. It's encore.
Yeah.
They didn't play it in Melbourne. Why did you drop it?
Well, it was one of those things where it was on there because obviously it's a very we all noticed, but I particularly noticed that it's a very popular track, and it seems to be quite a great ender as well for a set of shows. It's just got this really grounding feeling, but I think the feeling was we wanted to end on a bit more of a bang, and Love on Your Side definitely has that kind of bang. It's kind of like the energy, you're keeping the energy up. Well, with King for a Day, it's sort of it's very grounded energy, but it's just, it's a very different feeling and tempo and so on. But yeah, I think if we played King for a Day on any of those, everyone still would have gone wild. But it was also, it's a the I don't know how long. I mean, you tell me, how long was the show in total? Do you think we were singing and playing?
Uh,
Like an hour and a half,
oh, yeah,
maybe?
hour and a half. So,
Yeah. So, and that's quite a long time to be playing, non-stop without, a break in between um of show of tracks basically. So, I think the feeling was, yeah, just we wanted to do we wanted to do both of the encores, but in the end it was deciding which one to drop, just because by that point we were all just, yeah, it's quite a long set of shows, quite a long, quite a few shows back to back, and then quite a few, an hour and a half set is quite long. So it was just deciding what should we pick, and I think we felt that Love on Your Side was a bit more, it's like energized, like leaving everyone just going, having a proper dance. I think Tom wanted people to really go for it at the end and encourage people to stand up and,
no. My friend who was sitting next to me, who was wearing the black shirt, you might remember, same row as me, actually encouraged me to get up during Doctor Doctor.
really.
I was sitting the whole time, and she's like, "Oh, get up!" I'm like, "Okay, I'll get up."
Yeah, no, I mean, if you were to ask me what one of my favorite Thompson Twins tracks would be, it would definitely be Doctor Doctor for me. I love playing Doctor Doctor. It's every time we get to that point, and I get to, I'm there at my keyboard, I think, oh yes, I love this track. And it's such a great track to sing. The lyrics are great, the energy is great. So yes, I'm always at that moment on stage as well, very aware that it's the moment to start to get people to stand up. And it's great your friend was feeling that energy too. Like yeah, it's the one where it's a great one to encourage people to stand up and get moving, for obviously Doctor Doctor, and then usually we end on Hold Me Now. So yeah, it's nice, especially with seated gigs, you want to get people to come forward, and yeah, exactly.
Yes. I was talking with some fans backstage while the show was going on, and obviously I'd known that the set list was going to be different. Had the band suggested one point to end with "Don't Mess with Dr. Dream" from Here's to Future Days? Same energy
Oh,
as Love on Your Side.
yes, yeah. No, we haven't discussed that really. No, we kind of, it would be very cool. I'm sure there'll be room for change, of what we're doing, and I'm sure in time, as time goes on, the lovely thing is, because we've never done the gap into the gap, it's kind of quite a new thing as a whole. But now that, like, I mean, we'll have, I'm sure we'll be touring it down here, then also in America as well, maybe even back in Australia again. But there will come a time where we want to change. I'm sure Tom will want to change things up and maybe talk about doing other tracks from, all his other albums and stuff. So maybe introducing something like that, like Doctor Dream and stuff would be, yeah, be great, just to have some different tracks that, and maybe more for the fans, the hardcore fans, where they can really go, oh yeah, that one. I guess that's what We Are Detective was a bit like for us
Yes.
back in Aylesbury, because
Okay.
that was a real, we threw that in and no one was expecting that, and all the fans in Aylesbury just went wild because they were like, what? We were not seeing that coming. So it'd be great to do a few more chats like that, but we didn't actually discuss that. No, we kind of knew that we were, for the Australian tour gigs, we were definitely, our focus and our heads were very much in, into the gap. That was our kind of concentration in terms of just those definitive songs basically from the album that were the biggest and, yeah, popular.
Nice.
Yeah.
Has Tom ever told you about the story about Roll Over? It was
No,
one of the singles that was meant to be released but never got released at all due
no,
to
I don't really. He has
personal
actually.
issues that affected Tom, that he thought it was a bad omen to the single.
Oh, no, I didn't know
Well,
that. No,
yeah, I thought maybe we'd actually have. It's been a long time now. Maybe he might want to perform that song live. There's a really.
maybe.
I saw someone got the record signed by Tom. I'm like, do you know how much that's worth now?
Really, really.
It's only
God.
limited amount of pressings, and it goes on Discogs like $500.
Wow, does it?
Yep.
God, that's amazing. Yeah, so signed one now must gonna be worth.
If someone's got a sign on, I'm like, you're so fucking lucky.
um, I mean, again, you could bring it up with him and see what he says, but I don't know. I mean, Tom's like a I don't know. I don't know if Tom's someone who's he definitely has his sort of like a I don't think
Definitive
he'll mind.
list of
Yeah, I don't think he'll mind me saying this, but for sure, like you know, he I think he has his suspicions about things. So, you know, if he has a premonition or a suspicion about something, he'll, you know, so if he feels there might be a bad omen with the track, he might still feel that way. Um, I know that he has a lucky set of glasses that he wears on stage every time.
yes,
So, and
those
he,
iconic glasses.
yeah, the iconic glasses. So, and he never, I mean, he'll always wear on stage and he'll never not. And it's his kind of good luck omen for the show. So, you know, he is a bit like that. So I can imagine, you know, if he felt that a track had a bad omen or anything, maybe he'd stick with it. But I don't know, time passes, maybe that would change and you know, but it would be cool, huh? I think that'd be really cool. God, I can't believe that record's been signed. That's going to be worth, yeah,
I have to find
bucks.
the person who got it signed so I can tell them, like, yeah, you know, you're playing with hot money now.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, absolutely. You need to get some of yours signed, actually.
I know, but they wouldn't allow signing at the
Were
show
they not?
because the COVID protocols.
Oh God, even at our shows.
Yes.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that. God, you see, we don't necessarily see that side of things really, because we're backstage and we're just, you know, doing
And
the show.
then
But
you guys are just chilling out.
yeah, I know, chilling out with the rider backstage and
Tom's
all the
taking in
you know.
all the glory.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's actually very zen backstage. We kind of we all spend the few hours leading up to the show together in a very kind of chilled out, you know, grazing, eating a bit of food, grazing and, you know, just chilling out and chatting. And then about an hour before, once we're ready and dressed, we kind of warm up together backstage. And again, we're just, you know, singing together, Tom on guitar often and the three of us singing with him and just warming our voices up and getting in the zone and the energy of the night. So it's all very zen backstage, you know, nothing too wild. Uh, I don't think like the old Thompson twin days when Tom was a lot younger and you know rocking it out, living the Thompson twins high life backstage
Hmm.
and stuff. But we
Yeah.
love it. We love it. We get to spend time with him and yeah, warm up and get in the zone before the show, which I think is really important, like for all of us and for him. So we it's a ritual of ours. We always do that. Yeah,
Cool, cool, cool.
yeah.
What's your tour rig? So what are you playing? Obviously, we know that the cello, but what's the keyboard?
The keyboard is just like a little I think it's I'm trying to remember now. I think it's like an M Audio 49. It's nothing like fancy basically. It's basically all being triggered from an Ableton program which has loaded in all the synth sounds that would have been originally used, I guess. Not originally, but you know what I mean, like
Yeah,
all the sounds that Tom would have picked out in the day. So really, it's just a means for me to trigger MIDI essentially. But yeah, I think the keyboard's an M Audio. I can't remember the exact model name. I need to go back through my pictures to check. I'll have to tell you, but it's great. I mean,
I'm
it's a
also I'm also
yeah.
using Vam audio as well. I have the
Oh,
88.
are you
I have the big one,
nice?
big boy.
Oh, the big one, the 88, the full one. Yeah, yeah. I mean, M Audio, great. I mean, I have a couple of M Audio 49 keyboards lying around the studio, and I use them all the time as MIDI, you know, just to put in MIDI and stuff like that. But yeah, it's good. It's a solid keyboard. It's lasted the whole time I've been there, and it's I guess the big thing for me being classically trained is that the one thing that annoys me is that with any keyboard actually because it's plastic and because there's no action you don't really get a response back from the key hitting, you know. So unlike a piano you get Unlike a
Yeah.
piano, you get you have something called the action, right? Which is like the bounce back of the feeling under your fingers, essentially.
Hmm.
Is a lot heavier and is a lot weightier, and you get a response back. But with the keys, obviously, it's all plastic and there's no weight at all. So it's something that actually was one of the things that when I was learning and getting used to playing all the Thompson Twins stuff that was hardest was getting used to the feeling of the keyboard and not having the response back that you usually do with a piano or whatever. But it's great practice and it's really important to be able to play a keyboard because that's what they are and that's how they work. But yeah, so I've got that. Then my we've just got a load of sort of mics, vocal mics, basically SM58s and things like that. And then I'm actually I have an added extra role as the band member. So not only am I playing, but I'm also triggering all the tracks. So I'm the one who determines the pace of the set and the show, essentially. So it's an added pressure. So I have in front of me, I mean, next time you see us play, you'll see on my keyboard, because Alice doesn't have it, but I have it as a screen that has all
Yeah,
of
I
the
think I've
tracks.
seen that screen.
You've probably
I'm
seen it.
close
Okay,
enough
good.
to see it.
Yeah. So that screen is a sort of blueprint, identical copy of our Ableton project that's running off backstage, which is running the whole show. But I am triggering it from my keyboard. So I basically have to scroll down and choose the tracks and basically gauge. I have to trigger each track according to how Tom is reacting and what he's saying or what he's not saying or just gauging the pace of the show. So yeah, it's this sort of added extra pressure, which I feel very lucky that and grateful that my team and Tom think that I'm capable of being the responsible one to do it. But it's equally it can be quite nerve-wracking because yeah, obviously if anything goes wrong, it's a lot of, it's a lot of pressure on me to not get it wrong, not to fuck up. So
Yes.
and I felt that particularly in Aylesbury a few months ago, pre-Australia tour, the Australian tour, where we hadn't played the Into the Gap album. It's the first time ever. And it was a big show, as I was saying. And I felt really, really nervous. I felt really anxious for I get nervous. For most shows, I get a little bit of nerves, and I think that's a really healthy thing. I think you need that so you don't become complacent ever. I think you need to be on your toes always. But with the Aylesbury show, I felt really nervous. I felt like, wow. And I remember just standing there, just feeling my chest, putting my hand on my chest and going, oh, I'm feeling quite nervous about this. Like just thinking about all the playing for one, having not really played the Into the Gap album, only in rehearsals, and then two, the pace of the show and reacting to Tom because it was a really long show. It was at least an hour and a half, again, like 2 hours. And so yeah, it was pretty daunting. But these things, when you get nerves, you usually keeps you on your toes, and everything went fine. And yeah, so it's an added pressure in terms of my setup. Is that so? That's quite a big thing. And then my other is the electric cello, and as I was saying, that's a Yamaha. I think it's called a SVC 210, I think, and it's like their best. It's their most advanced, most expensive electric cello, basically. And I did a lot of research when I was buying, looking for electric cellos, and there were two makes. There was Yamaha, who were known, and I mean, we all know Yamaha; they're pretty
Yeah.
reliable. They're pretty good, and especially for the electric and electric string stuff. And then there was another company called Bridge, which I think they're based in the UK again, but their electric string instruments were a lot bulkier, and I loved the look of this Yamaha because you've seen it, it looks like a skeleton. It's very
Yeah.
cool. It looks, I mean, I nickname it Bones because it looks like a skeleton, and I love that. It looks quite, out of this world, and it sort of looks like a cello but then doesn't at the same time.
Yeah.
It's very space age. So yeah, that's basically my setup, and it's quite simple really, as I said, because a lot of the stuff we do, because if you notice, Paulina is on an electric drum kit.
Yes. I
Alice is also on keys, like
half
you,
my
yeah, like
life's
your
Yamaha.
exactly, yeah, like your electric drum kit, exactly. Alice is on her bass that I think she calls it Black Beauty. It's a Fender bass. I can't remember what it is. I think it might. I don't know if it's.
Is it the jazz bass?
I was going to say I think it might be a jazz bass. I'm not sure, but
I know
so
David Lee from
that's
Rush plays a jazz bass. He plays a Fender
yeah,
jazz.
yeah. I think you might be right. Yeah. So she has her own bass, but in terms of our keyboard setup, it's pretty simple. It's just a 49 note, mainly just to trigger our MIDI and stuff, like from the main system. So
Cool. Well, I'm going to bring what we've seen at house because I think it'd be really well, but it'll be interesting to this. So I
oh,
picked this up about 2017, I think it was, when I was looking for a better keyboard to replace my Casio keyboard at the time, which was my first ever keyboard that I got all the way back in 2014.
wow. Look at this. Check you out. That's awesome. That's awesome. Look at that. The Roland Lucina. Is that right?
Yes, the Royal Lucina.
Nice.
It's a
Very
perfect size of a Mellotron.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Look at that. I think it's great. And do you use it a lot?
It's dead at the moment. I need to get new batteries for it.
Oh, really? Fair enough.
Yeah, I've been putting batteries in it for ages. I have a organ somewhere as well, a Yamaha organ, I think it is, electone.
Nice.
So I like to use that combination to play a bit of multi-handed keyboards.
Wicked.
As my
Amazing.
influence is Tony Banks from Genesis.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I play some
Amazing.
pretty complex stuff.
Yeah, that is complex. Wow. Well, it's very cool. It's really great you do that though. Really great.
And as for
Amazing.
drums, I probably would give it to Phil Collins from Genesis also, but I have a strong leaning towards Neil Peart from Rush.
Okay. Nice. Nice. Gosh, some big icons, some big yeah, amazing. And out of interest, where we are now, is this your sort of studio, would you say?
This is our office here in my house. My dad also
Nice.
shares it with me, just right
Nice.
beside me. But this is my
Nice.
end of it, where I have my bits and bobs and my percussion pad and my dual hybrid kit with an Alesis module alongside a DTX
Nice.
22.
So this is kind of your space, really, basically.
All culture related stuff, some pop vinyls. Even got the
Nice.
Seinfeld logo set from like this last year.
Wow. Nice. Nice. It's great. No, I think you've got a great space here. It's really very cool. It's great to have a space for your kit because that's quite a big kit.
Oh yeah, it's a big one. Big one. Sounds great. Though I
Yeah.
didn't miss the rolling kit that I had. I had a TD one, but I want to try and set my sights out for like TD 27.
Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I think
Nice.
that'd be
Yeah,
good.
I mean,
Maybe
God,
go
there's so
high-end
many.
cameras. Would be
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. Because who's made this one? Is this an Alesis, did you
There's
say?
an Alesis one, and there's Yamaha also scattered
Oh,
across.
you've got okay, so it's like a double. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a
Nice.
dual hybrid module, as they call it.
Dual hybrid module. Nice. Nice. Yeah. Amazing. Very good. Very good. Well,
Yeah.
I'm just in my live room. I share a studio with a bunch of uh composers and producers, but there's 8 of us in total here and 4 studios, and I timeshare my room with 2 other writers, producers. But yeah, it's a great sort of family unit here. An amazing space with this room, which is a communal live room, and we're all kind of tie lined into I don't know if you can see that box there.
Yeah.
Tie lined, all the rooms are tie lined into this room so that if anyone needs to record and use this as a space to record in, you can do it from any of the rooms, which is amazing. Um,
Nice.
so yeah, it's an amazing purpose built space that for all of us. Essentially, it was built from the ground up from an empty unit here in London, and we're based in Battersea. So yeah, I feel very lucky. I come in here every day and try and be creative and do what I can. Really
Nice. I have a friend named Peter John Vitez, who's a very iconic keyboardist for Jethro Tull in the 80s.
oh yeah, yeah.
One. He also records out of Battersea as well.
Oh really? What was his name?
Peter John Vitez, he's a record producer.
Oh, Vitetti. Yeah,
Yes.
Pete Vitetti. So Pete Vitetti used to he used to be in the same studios that this lot used to be in Battersea. So it was called Sphere Studios. unfortunately, Sphere closed down about 6 or 7 years ago now, and everyone moved out. But yeah, Pete Vitesse, yeah, I've met him before a few times, quite a few times.
You're so lucky. Oh my God.
Uh,
The stories he shared with me about my uncle Ian Anderson, oh my God.
yeah,
Yes,
I
I'm
mean,
related to
Pete,
Ian Anderson through Jeffrey Toll. Surprise. It's now in print. So if anyone
really
wants it online, check the book. Lend Me Your Ears from Richard Houghton. It's written in Word.
nice, nice. I have to check that out. Yeah. Well, no, Pete was one of the first people I met actually when I started my own music journey in professionally 6 or 7 years ago. When I did work experience at his studio at Sphere, and he was there amongst a bunch of this lot that I now work with, and he was one of the first people I got introduced it to, and I remember being completely overwhelmed by his extreme intelligence and musical ability, and being completely fascinated by him as a character, and but feeling pretty overwhelmed by his genius, really. So
Yeah.
yeah, an amazing man. Yeah, really great person. I haven't seen him actually since Sphere, so yeah, long time, but I hope he's doing well.
He's doing great. He's been touring around Italy with a couple jazz musicians, so he's doing quite fine for himself.
Great, good for him. That sounds fantastic.
Yes,
Good to hear.
right up his alley. He actually gave me a photo of his rig on Messenger
No
because
way.
we're Facebook
Wow,
friends. So sometimes I
amazing.
get some messages from him here and there, but if not, then yeah, he usually sends me a nice message around my birthday or Christmas time, which is great.
Nice,
So
amazing.
he uses, parenthesis alone, this.
Oh yeah, I know. What a good rig. I mean, listen, if anyone was going to have a decent keyboard rig, it was going to be Pete. Yeah, he's definitely the man for that, for sure. But no,
Well,
it's
he still keeps like old analog synthesizers in his attic at his house.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that sounds like Pete.
He might
I'm
have
not
told you that
surprised.
before. I'm not sure. He definitely told it to me, and he says he wants to be buried with them.
Really,
He wants to
I
be
totally,
buried
I can
with
totally
all these
imagine that.
synthesizers. It's crazy.
I can totally imagine that. Bless him. Well, I'm glad to hear he's doing well anyway.
Yes. Cool. Speaking of the recent Australian tour, what was your favorite city to play? And is it Melbourne?
Oh, do you know what? No, like you know what was really sad this trip was that we had, unfortunately, the weather was not fantastic throughout our trip, which I feel like it never reflects well on the cities you're going to visit, annoyingly. But when I first came here a few years ago, Tom, we started in Melbourne and it was so hot and sunny, and I remember thinking, God, this is the best city ever. And it was at the time. But then this time when we arrived, it was absolutely pissing it down. And the whole day we were there, it was just so depressing. And I thought, oh no, it's such a sad. But I do still think Melbourne is definitely like, my experience of Australia as a whole. And when I was last here, Melbourne was definitely my favorite. So I probably am quite biased towards Melbourne. Um, but no, I really enjoyed everywhere. Brisbane was good, except we were quite jet lagged still in Brisbane. So again, it's a different experience. All these factors play in. Sydney, great. Again, the weather wasn't great though. Melbourne, unfortunately, do you remember that day? It was pissing with rain. But I enjoyed coming up to the Northcote Theatre. That was a different area that I'd never been to,
Yeah,
north
you're
of
meant to do
Melbourne.
ballet. I've done a ton of
I
ballet.
know. I'm gutted because we were so our hotel was very near Palais, and I went for a wander one morning to go and have a look around the area. And St Kilda, I don't know if you've ever been to the UK before, but if St Kilda reminds me a lot of Brighton
Does say
in
that? Yeah, it does.
UK. So, Brighton again, it has its own pier. It's quite quirky. There's lots of quirky characters around, lots of really cool restaurants and sort of indie cafes, lots of vintage shops, all that kind of. It's very quirky as a place, and has all these sort of like has palais-esque theaters, and so yeah, very similar vibe,
Hmm.
arcades and things like that. So I really liked it. It felt very familiar. It felt very familiar in terms of Brighton. So that was cool. I really liked it. So I was sad to see it and then think, oh, we didn't get to play it. It's a shame.
Yeah.
But I think because of the numbers and just because of the state of the world at the moment, it just we had to move venue. It was but hey, I thought the Northcote Theatre was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. But again, it was quite a quirky venue. Like, it was really fun. And I think as a result of the layout and the bar, I love the bar coming out the back. So but yeah, I think Melbourne has always had a really like soft spot in my heart because, as I said, it's kind of the first city I came to when I ever came to Australia, and my experience of it has always been really, really positive. So yeah, and the coffee.
Yes, we are known for coffee.
I didn't have one. I was saying this to my colleague next door. I don't think I had one bad coffee while I was in Australia. Literally every coffee I had was incredible. And every coffee I had in Melbourne that day, amazing. So yeah, hands down to you guys. You guys nail it with me. And I'm a big coffee person, so yeah.
No, there you go. Well, after all, Melbourne is the capital of Australia.
Yeah, they say that, don't they? They say, you know, I mean, you tell me. I think that there's a sort of slight rivalry with Sydney about who technically feels like they should be more of the capital. But yeah,
it's Melbourne. It's Melbourne.
Fair enough. I shouldn't have bothered asking. It's Melbourne.
Moving away from Thompson Twins entirely, I want to talk about your EPs and your scoring for film and TV, as that's rather interesting.
Yeah. So on the side of everything that I do, and the Thompson Twins and gigging, I am a film composer. So I write music for TV and film. So when I'm not gigging around the world and doing amazing things like that, I come here into my studio and I write bits of music for TV shows, short film, that kind of thing. And that's again my loves since I was a teenager. I've always wanted to be a composer and writer. It's a whole mix of things. So last year, with regards to my EPs, I released two, both completely blank canvas, just me being me and writing for writing. And they were really amazing, actually, because it gave me the freedom just to release my own. It was all independently released. It's just me, with just the incentive to try and get my voice out there, basically, and to show people what I write and how I write. And it's amazing because it's just those 4 tracks that I released, those 2 EPs, gained a lot of traction and a lot of it from a number of different people, writers, producers, directors, agents, everything great. It's been a fantastic reaction. Actually, I've got another small EP that I'm going to be releasing in the next month or 2, actually, which I'm just waiting to master as we speak. Which is so again, 2 tracks that I'd written completely freely, all very filmic inspired. So that's really cool. And then on the back of that, I have 7 or 8, I think 7-track album, an electric cello album, and it's been in the making for a couple of years now, but it's all ready, it's all mastered. I'm just completing the album artwork for that at the moment. And again, that's all free writing, and the sounds, everything was created using the cello you saw, the electric cello. So it's great. It's all very filmic inspired. So yeah, it's I'm doing a lot of my own artist music. I'm doing a lot of my own writing with the incentive of getting my musical identity out into the world for people to find and hear and listen to, and hopefully land some bigger projects, some bigger films and things like that, because that's always kind of been, when I was younger, one of my dreams was to write music for film and things like that. So yeah, but I'm very much doing that anyway. I've been, as I said, I did a short film at the beginning of the year with someone. I'm doing a short film hopefully soon, and then I do lots of advert work as well. It's my bread and butter, day to day, paying the bills kind of thing. Yeah, that's kind of what I do outside of the whole gigging world.
Nice. Sounds very cool indeed. I've checked out a couple here and there just to see what you're all about. You sound pretty fucking cool.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, they're pretty. They're I think they're not necessarily what people would expect my sound to be, which is what I like. I think people listen to those tracks and they maybe think they know how I like it, but then they actually listen, they go, wow, that's totally different, which is exactly the reaction I'd like to have. I like to surprise people and have a proper sort of oral visual sort of experience, and they listen to my music. But so yeah, more of the same really when it comes to the next EP and my album, which is going to come out hopefully in the next few months. So yeah, on the back burner for a while. So yeah, it'd be nice to get it out there. And yeah, but yeah, it's I love it. I love writing. I try and write as much as I can, whenever I get the moment to do it. I'm always in here in the live room just creating and new sounds and ideas and recording and in my studio as well. So yeah.
Cool, cool. One of my favorite bands at the moment, Blancmange, opened for you guys at Rise in Osbury.
Yes.
How were they? I want to know.
They were amazing. They were really cool. I mean, again, I didn't know of Blancmange's music at all, but very cool, very, very, very cool. It was amazing opener actually to our Aylesbury show. And they really I think they even went overtime actually, and we were just like, wow, this is mesmerizing. And yeah, it was really, really cool. Different from what I expected. But and you're a big fan.
Yes, I'm a massive fan. I've always wanted to see them. I will willingly fork out money to go to England to catch their shows because I don't know when they're coming to Australia at all.
Really? Would you jump on a flight and come and do them?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. Well, that's the commitment. That's a commitment. I mean, have they ever come up to us, down to Australia at all, or
They've been interviewed on Countdown, which was an Australian show, but that's about it.
Yeah, but never actually come to the UK.
Mm.
Oh, sorry, come to Australia. Well,
No.
we actually really liked, I think Tom really liked the idea of, coming to Australia and supporting local Australian artists from each city. And I think he quite liked the idea of having, we had Chloe Styler, and then we had, not his name, he was a really nice guy. We had another guy who was amazing, guitarist, songwriter. And I think Tom's a big sort of trying to support local artists and local music. So I think he liked the idea of having someone who was from Australia or from the cities we were going to and having like our roots. So we did that and it worked really, really well, and they were fantastic and great opening. Got to know them a bit backstage. So yeah, it was a nice call. But yeah, I know it would have been cool to have someone like Blancmange to come out and open with us. I'm sure it will happen in the future again. And it worked really well in Aylesbury, I thought. They got the crowd going and ready. So
Because I reckon like with a lot of their discography, they could do the same thing, but here in Australia.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be cool if we got to Australia and did some shows with you guys. I mean, well, for you guys anyway. One of the first people to get yourself some tickets, I'm sure.
So do you know any songs at all from the Thompson Twins discography that you probably know that maybe you could suggest to Tom to play?
I mean, if you've got a list of any tracks you suggest to play, then let us know. I've been loving. I've really enjoyed the one thing that we, for a lot of the time that I've been with Tom, it's been, the same kind of tracks and, gigging the same core tracks that are super popular amongst the Thompson Twins repertoire. But I've really enjoyed, like I was saying earlier, doing things like Into the Gap and just doing that album as a whole. That's been a really exciting, a new endeavor for all of us as a band actually, but also, we had the other day in Aylesbury was fantastic. So yeah, I'd love to do more tracks from other albums and things like that. So going forward, I think it's a question of going through tracks and seeing what he wants to do. But I guess you got to remember for Tom as well, it's not just saying yes, let's do it. So he has to then with any new track, he has to then go in and program it and get it sounding the way he wants it to sound if we were to perform it live. So it's quite a lot of work. So it's all down to Tom really and what he feels and what he feels of.
Let's have a look here. I think one that comes to mind for me is from the album, and it would be The Road.
The Road. Okay, I don't know. I don't know if I know that one actually. I'm again, probably me.
Probably.
For sure.
Yeah, it's on the same album as In the Name of Love.
Oh yeah. Okay, yeah.
It's even on the same side. It's closest bad one.
I think I think now yeah. But yeah, for sure. I mean, again, you should suggest these to Tom and see what he says. He's the man to ask for sure. We'd love that. But I think we've all enjoyed doing, introducing new material into our set for sure. As I said, it's away from the core songs, which are amazing, but just doing some different new things, which is really exciting. So I'm totally game for it. I know the others are too. So yeah.
I say that because I've seen gigs online where they played songs like Runaway, which was done once in 2018 in America.
Yeah, we've done Runaway, yeah, for sure. Again, it's I think it's quite popular in the US. And it's still in our arsenal for sure. We've still got it, we've still performed it, but yeah, we've just not performed it for quite a while. You're right. That one, again, King for a bit like that. We hadn't performed it for a while. Probably Aylesbury was the last time we performed it. What else have we not performed for a long time? There's a couple of other ones, a couple of sort of more newer ones as well that of Tom's own music, which we've not played for a while either. Yeah, in terms of Thompson Twins, I think Runaway and King for a Day were the ones that are kind of they come along there. Everyone goes, oh yeah, great. But it will be back, I'm sure. We'll be back, Runaway. Yes. It's still in, as I said, it's still very much in our arse and ready to go, and we will play it. We all know well. So yeah, I'm sure it will make its appearance again sometime soon.
What made Tom do Psycho Killer?
So Psycho was kind of, it was a track that he absolutely loves, and I think we've been doing it backstage. I mean, he'll probably correct me if I'm wrong, but we were backstage, listening to it and things like that, and appreciating it. And I just sort of thought something clicked in his mind and thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to sort of do a kind of acousticy version backstage that we can just sing along to? So it sort of stemmed from doing warm-ups, actually, I think, backstage. So we were just warming up and singing, because we often do that. We don't just sing Thompson Twins backstage. We often sing other covers, older country tunes, all sorts of different things backstage, whatever takes the mood and the fancy. So I think Tom probably was just, for me, I think he probably was noodling away and just decided to play Psycho Killer. We were all singing along, and then as time we would do it quite ritually, like more of a ritual every time after, and before our show. And yeah, I think it got to a point where Tom was like, actually, we could really, if I program this, we make this into something that we could perform live, on stage. So he programmed it up. I made a decent sort of keyboard part, Alice on the bass, him on up front on the drums, and yeah, it sounded, and we kind of practiced it a bit in rehearsals, and yeah, and we just went for it. And we thought fun to do a cover, actually, just to do something away from the Thompson Twins and have a break in the set where you're doing something a bit different, because a lot of artists do it. They pick up and do covers of other songs. I think it works really well. I mean, whenever we play it, we love it, and there's a great energy to it, and it's different. It's really different. So that's kind of how it came about, really. It kind of started backstage and then progressed. Tom go, oh, well, maybe I can, let me stew away at this. So
nice. Do you have any favorite virtual workstations that you like to play with on your keyboards?
Oh, any virtual keyboards, you mean?
Yeah, so the virtual workstations, the VSTs.
Oh, VSTs, yeah. Yeah, all the um I have all the Arturia plugins. I don't know if you know them.
Yes, I do know
It's
them.
got
Yes.
exactly. So they're all those VSTs I play a lot of the time. So I have all of them at my disposal. They just sit in my arsenal and I often just get them. So you know, things like the Juno, there's so many, the Mini Moog, the oh God, there's so many I can't even think of them all the ARP synths as well. So much so I feel like I need to get it up actually on my Logic. Can I do that here? Unless my system's gonna completely crash. It won't work. But yeah, I use that whole VST library all the time, whether it's for writing purposes or just to noodle around on. Um, so yeah, I've always loved. We've even actually here in our studio, because we used to in Spheres where Pete Vitesse was, Duran Duran had a room in Sphere Studios, and of course Nick Rhodes had uh, a whole of keyboards of incredible analog, you know, original keyboards. So for a while here, we had Juno, we had his Prophet, and we had his one of three Maplewood Moogs in the studio, one of three in the world with that particular thin maple. And it just sat here because he didn't have anywhere to keep it because we left the Sphere Studios and he just said, can you guys look after it because we were in here and yes, of course we can. And he said, you know, you have I don't mind you playing them, just be careful of them. So they were here for a while. So that's fun when Nick Rhodes comes in and leaves his one of his synths behind just for us to mess around with and play. Doesn't happen every day, but it's happened. So whenever I can, I love the VSTs. I think they're amazing that you can dispose on. I use them a lot. But whenever I can, I always, if the real thing is around, I always prefer to plug in and experiment like that and, you know, get recording the actual. There's something about the way a synth breathes and moves and feels physically in the air and the space, you know. There's nothing beats the real thing, right? I mean, the plugins are incredible, the plugins are incredible, and they're so useful and essential, but the real thing is like something about the real thing. If you can get a hold of any of it, it's amazing. So yes, I can totally understand why Pete Tessie wants to be buried with all his synths and keyboards. Yes. Yes. If I go, it may not come up because I'm not connected to. Oh, okay, here we go. So I've got all these. I've got a whole mix. So I'm always using this one, the ARP 2600. Of course, the Hammond. That's a classic. Oh yeah, the CS80. I often pick that up. The yeah, DX7. What else? Jupiter 8. Yeah, the Mini Moog all the time. Prophet, Selena occasionally, and good old Whirly. Can't go wrong. So yeah, I've got all those. I mean, I'm quite lucky. I've got quite a few decent, you know, plugins for instrument wise, which is cool. Oh yeah, the Roland stuff as well. Again, we've got the Juno here, Jupiter 1080, the JV 1080, nice. It's great. I've got a whole load of stuff, and that's just instruments. And then audio wise, I've got all the Waves plugins, which are really useful. So yeah. I mean, yeah, but particularly, I'm always playing around with the Arturia stuff. It's amazing. I often use it, you know, coming up with on projects that I'm writing on or adverts or whatever it is. But you know what's also great is Keyscape. Have you heard of Keyscape?
Oh,
Yeah, Keyscape's really, really good. And it's like made by Spectrasonics, and again that's a VST, and they do Omnisphere, which you may have heard of as well, and Trillion, those three. But Keyscape's really good. It does a number of cool keyboards and clavinets and stuff like that, so that's another one to check out. But yeah, all the Arturia stuff is killer.
Yeah, I have the RBM and I have Yamaha DTX7's DTX.
Nice.
so I can
Very cool.
noodle around, play these tunes with that. That's cool.
Yeah, very cool. Very, very cool.
Yeah, that's that. That's that. Do you have any questions for me? Always open to the floor.
Hey, I mean, I feel like as long as you're happy with all the answers I've given you, I mean, I've really enjoyed. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's been fantastic. And hopefully, I mean, maybe if we have some shows here, you'll get over to the UK, maybe at some point.
Yes.
Especially if we're playing with Blancmange. So
Yes.
Blancmange should
I
be
need it's
good.
from fans who've told me he says he'll meet up with fans before the show, which is really great.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because I've got
No,
some
it's
finals to be signed, so I need some
oh yeah,
stuff.
that's true. That'd be cool. Yeah, yeah. Well, listen, it's been an absolute pleasure to do this podcast with you. So thank you for having me on, and I hope keep pestering Tom's management because I'm sure it'll be fine. And if you don't hear anything, let me know. I can always see if I can always throw my hand into the mix and try and encourage it. But yeah, but no, it's been a pleasure to answer all your questions and everything. So what time is it with you now? It must be quite late.
It's only 11:43 p.m. Not that late.
Oh, that's not so bad. That's not so bad. Oh, of course, because you're 10 hours, aren't you? So nice. Very good. Well, I'm only just feel like I'm starting my day actually. It's 1:45 in the afternoon. I'm gonna got a got a few working advert deadlines I'm gonna get to. So yeah, so all is good. So yeah, it was lovely to be on your podcast, Lillian. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, welcome. As always, you can check the episodes. The video version will be on YouTube. Hopefully, when they get done editing it, you can check it out on Spotify, Anchor FM, or your good place where you can get podcasts, and maybe featured on 94.7 The Pulses Groups on the Records, the best place to find the greatest music of all time. This has been another episode of The Variety Show with Liam. Take care.